Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Good evening and welcome to this evening's forum. I am Christine Sokemo-Frederick and I will be your moderator this evening. We recognize and acknowledge that the land we gather on is Treaty Number 6 territory and a traditional meeting grounds and home of the First Nations, including both the treaty signatories, the Cree, the Saulteaux, Nakota Sioux, Stoney, and Cree Iroquois, as well as other Indigenous peoples, such as the Blackfoot and the Métis, and honor the narratives respecting the land holdings beyond the official treaty with the Crown. They are a part of the sovereignty that springs from this land. We reflect cultural, historical, familial connections to this territory over millennia. We recognize those who have sacrificed, sometimes involuntarily and violently, to be here. We acknowledge that the land is a living entity, our mother, and we recognize the compassion she has for us and the many gifts that she gives and express our gratitude. Tonight, the 4 communities, Inglewood, Dovercourt, Sherbrooke, and Woodcroft, have worked very hard to bring you this forum and ask that you join us in a respectful, curious, and open-minded dialogue. Again, this is a forum, not a debate. I would love very much to introduce you to the candidates we have this evening. For Ward Anirniq, we have Ali Haymore. Born and raised in Edmonton in Ward 2 his whole life, he is married with 3 kids, an Alberta sheriff, and is a veteran of the Canadian Armed Forces, and holds a Bachelor of Arts degree from Concordia University. Prior to working with the government, he built a restaurant from scratch and operated it with his wife until he sold it on a profit. Next, we have Agrippa Wejo, who holds a Bachelor of Education and a Master of Arts degree. He has worked as a program manager at the World Bank and European consulting firm, implementing development programs and government reform agendas. He is also a small business owner. Next, we have Ali Kassab, who is committed to freezing property taxes, making neighborhoods safer, and improving transit. He supports balanced infill, proactive crime prevention, and practical solutions for homelessness while respecting established communities. Next, we have our incumbent, Erin Rutherford. She has a master's degree in community development and 15 years professional experience in public engagement and social planning for multiple municipalities. Erin is a local food enthusiast, a runner, and she enjoys life with her 2 kids, partner, extended family, friends, and community. Next, we have Jesse Watson, an economist, urban planner, and small business owner. Drawing on his experience inside a city as a manager in operations and then in real estate, he is committed to fiscal accountability, heritage preservation, not prevention, and community-driven planning. I appreciate your sense of humor, thank you. Next, we have Maya Brady. She holds a master's degree focused on public service delivery and has worked on all 3 levels of government with a focus on policy and community development. She went on to build several successful small businesses here in Edmonton. She lives in northern part of the ward with her husband, 13-year-old stepson, and their dog, Mika. And unfortunately, I don't have a biography for you, Mr. Feduk. I deeply apologize for that. Perhaps we can give you an extra 30 seconds when it's your turn to speak. Thank you very much. So as per instructions earlier, we have a very specific timeline. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question. And then on the last question, they will have an opportunity to answer a question of their choice or to delve deeper into any of the questions that we've already had. So without much further ado, because we do want to keep on track and moving forward, I'll start. So question number 1 is in regards to governance and partisanship. So constituents have raised concerns about the growing influence of partisan politics at the municipal level and the blurred lines between municipal, provincial, and federal responsibilities. Many feel this undermines the independence of Edmonton City Council and risks sidelining local priorities. These issues affect all councillors, regardless of party affiliation. So here's your question, and we will begin, of course, with Ali Haymore on the very end there. The question to you, sir, is how will you maintain independence from partisan pressures, manage intergovernmental relationships, and ensure that the council decisions put interests of constituents first, even when those interests conflict with party agendas?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I do want to start off by telling you I didn't know about today's event until right now, so I'm sorry if I don't perform as well as my colleagues here. I'm going to try my best. When it comes to this question, I'm an independent candidate, and I want you to know that you are all I work for you, I represent you. While saying that, I will cooperate and collaborate with all levels of government. For example, we have a shortage of housing here. That issue alone, the new Prime Minister Carney said that he's going to build like there's no tomorrow, like they built in World War II. I'm going to follow through with that if I do win, and get some of that funding and help build housing here. So that's working together with that government and working with provincial governments. For example, we need treatment centers, for homelessness and stuff like that, and that's their area. I'm going to advocate for that and work closely with the provincial government and look for win-win situations. But at the end of the day, I will make it clear that you are my boss, and I work for you, and I represent you, and I will do what's in the best interest of my constituents. Thank you very much.
Well done. That was 1 minute and 9 seconds. Excellent. I had advised everyone to think in bullet forms as much as possible so that everyone would get a chance to speak, and I really appreciate your timeliness. Thank you, sir. Mr. Wejo, you are next. Would you like me to repeat the question? Is it the same question? It's the same question regarding how you maintain independence from partisan pressures.
I'm also an independent, and as an independent candidate, I stand to be independent in my decisions. However, as an independent candidate, there may be a lot of interest groups out there, whether they are political parties or interest groups.
Speak into the microphone, please. We can't hear you at the back.
Oh, okay. So always these organizations lobby the independent candidates to either implement their agendas or support them. So as an independent, it's important to remember that political parties also have interests of the community. So I will look at every proposal that they come up with and whether it aligns with the interests of the constituency that I serve. And if it does, then I will consider the proposals. And see
right into the mic. Thank you.
Whether this is the responsibility between the council and provincial or federal government, the interplay between the party in power and the use of program or project funding to advance the interests of the community will remain at the intersection of power play.
Thank you. That's your time. Wonderful. Well done. Next, sir, Mr. Kassab, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I'm okay.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm independent in the same thing. My job as a counselor is to be a partisan champion for our ward unique needs. That means I will evaluate every decision from budget allocations to zoning chart changes through one primary lens. What provides the greatest benefits for our families and our seniors, our local businesses, and our community's future? When it comes to other governments, my approach is pragmatics, no partisan. I will work with any elected officials, regardless of their party label, who is ready to deliver results in the resources for our city. Whatever it's security funding for LRT infrastructure or affordable housing, my test is simple. Is this good for Ward Anirniq? I will be collaborating, but first advocate always putting our cities and our Ward Anirniq first. Finally, and the most importantly, council decisions must be based on evidence, and there will be for the community, not party whip. We've seen the damage caused by top-down, one-size-fits-all politics, like the Infill bylaw that ignores the concern of homeowners. My guidance principles is to listening to the people I represent. When constitution or interests conflict with any external agenda, my vote will always be with the constituents. You can trust me to be your independent voice. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well done. And next we have Aaron Rutherford. Would you like me to repeat any part of the question? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I too have chosen to be an independent candidate. I've been called to service in local government to represent my community and my neighbors. This means listening to diverse voices and then making decisions that are in the best interest of the community as a whole. The perspectives and the needs of this ward are diverse. I've worked and demonstrated the ability to maintain respectful, constructive, and clear conversations and use those voices to inform the decisions at City Hall. I've proven that I'm someone that listens first, who fights for what's right when a policy or decision risks leaving folks in Ward Anirniq behind, and someone who communicates with honesty and transparency, even when it's what residents don't want to hear sometimes. Mm-hmm. I do receive endorsements. I've received endorsements in this election and in 2021. Those to me are not the same as party whips or party alignments. They're people that see what ideas I'm bringing forward and believe in those ideas. When it comes to intergovernmental relationships, we need good relationships with other orders of government, absolutely. And that includes finding common ground and understanding, which I've done, had many conversations with both federal and provincial over my term. It takes diplomacy, it takes compromise, it takes leadership that provides outcomes over egos, and it's imperative that we work together in the best interest of Edmonton. That being said, I will stand up, I will speak out, and I will communicate to Edmontonians on decisions or actions that impact them at the local level. Just like I spoke out against Bill 20, which did allow parties to be put into the municipal government. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just remind everyone to refrain from making remarks. Thank you.
Test. Hello, everybody. I'm Jesse Watson. So first I want to say thanks for coming and listening to us. And thanks to all my colleagues on the stage for having the courage to come to talk about making Edmonton better, however that may mean for you. So I do think this is an election of our time. And I say that because this is the first time in history that we do have political parties entering our landscape. And that was by the UPC government and through Bill 20, as my colleague just mentioned. So we have a couple parties on the stage, right? And they'll introduce yourself. But there's also third-party advertisers that are backing candidates like the incumbent. And I think it's really important to first ask yourself, do you care about parties in government at the city level? If you don't, if it's not a big deal, that's okay. Then it comes down to the merit of the candidate and what's important. For me, over this journey, I have been meeting with every level of government with the exact goal to be nonpartisan. Liberal, NDP, PC, O-levels, because I think it's the only way Edmonton is going to win. It's the only way we're going to get money, because we have been a little worse off than Calgary. I think we've all seen that in the news, and we all know that. And I think that's a disadvantage for us. I think party politics, unfortunately, when it comes to the ward, I do worry about special interests. I do worry that that one decision will come, and the question will be, it's party. And we will lose as a ward. Whether it's the third-party advertiser or the parties, I think it's a fundamental difference. So as we go into this, it is about you, the residents of the ward. It's not about a party. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Brady, you're next.
Hi there. Well, I'm going to shake things up here. So I am running with Better Edmonton, which is classified as a political party. For those who may or may not know, there is misconceptions. However,
Just a little bit closer.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
Better Edmonton. It's a nonpartisan party. Whether it's Better Edmonton, Tim Cartmel, I speak on behalf of myself. I create my own policies. I do my own writing. I'm very forthcoming at the doors as to why I chose to join Better Edmonton. In some places it's hurt me, some places it's benefited me. But for me, a first-time person running, being young, it provided me a platform for someone to make my website, someone to help guide me through the political process and provide an understanding of the do's and don'ts. In terms of party policy or a party whip, Better Edmonton doesn't have that. And then the day after the election, Better Edmonton completely goes dormant. The idea of it is to provide a team structure. Because as many of you guys have seen on council, whether they are working as a team or not, I'll leave it to you to decide. So the idea is if we can function together prior to the election, in the event that we magically make it, whether it's 2, 3, 4 of us, it means that we can make decisions efficiently, faster, reducing your guys' time as well as money. At the end of the day, my responsibilities are to the residents that I would be serving, regardless of party politics. And really, at the end of the day, is your garbage, is your snow removal an NDP issue? Is it a conservative issue? What would be a liberal stance to road maintenance, right? So that, I'll leave that for you to think of.
Thank you very much. Mr. Fadouk, I will grant you a few minutes to also introduce yourself, and then you can answer the question.
I'll save the introduction for a little later.
Okay.
I just have to move because this light is shining directly in my eyes, and I'm sure you can see the reflection off my big bald head. So I'm going to stand somewhere. Sorry, Jesse or Aaron, right in front of you guys. So first off, I think we can all agree that the current council has a horrendous relationship with the province right now. To me, it truly doesn't matter if the next provincial leader is going to be Nenshi or Daniel Smith. I believe that the mayor and the council has to do everything in their power to work with the province, and to me that means working hand in hand, especially on things like homelessness. As far as the party question is concerned, obviously that is more directed towards Maya and myself. I can't speak for what Maya's situation is. She explained it pretty well. I'm going to speak about why I joined PACE. So PACE is a grassroots organization started by people just like you, and quite frankly, people who are pissed off at the way the things have gone for the last 8, 10, 12 years. It seems to us that current council has lost all sense of perspective. Our focus is on getting your budget under control, your taxes under control, doing things like balancing a budget, reducing debt, and stop acting on behalf of special interest groups. The A in PACE actually stands for accountability, and that doesn't mean accountability to the party, it means accountability to you, the ward. And we actually had to sign a document saying that we understood that and we're going to abide by that. And let me give you a real personal example. I say this at the door every time I'm talking to somebody. I personally do not like the bike lanes. I think it's a waste of money. And those, thank you. And I cannot stand those commie mechanisms. They're far more dangerous than they are safe. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. But if you, the ward, in your wisdom, said we want more of both, then I would fight like I'm one of 3 monkeys trying to get on Noah's Ark, and I would do my best to get you those damn bike lanes and those commie mechanisms. Thanks very much. Can I take 30 seconds now?
Actually, I just realized I found it.
You found it?
I found it, so you can sit down.
Okay. Oh, you got it.
Sorry about that. I don't know why I missed it. But yes, Rob Fadouk has been married for 28 years, has 3 grown children. He has 25 years experience in the real estate development all over North America. And he's coached soccer for 22 years and sat on school boards and the ASA. He and his wife Susan own with partners 2 businesses in the ward, and as well as you mentioned, PACE. So we're going to move on to the next question. And we are already running a little bit behind, so I appreciate everyone being quick. That's awesome. I know we're going to figure out some seating here. I'm just going to discuss the questions. So the next question is regarding budget and city growth. With the rising property taxes and ongoing concerns around budget efficiency, residents are looking to council to prioritize city growth, attract outside investment, actively support local businesses, and ensure the safety and well-being of all citizens. So there are 2 questions that you may choose from to answer. And we will begin with Mr. Wejo. So you can choose one of the questions. So the first one is, in the next city budget, which 1 or 2 areas would you focus on to ensure tax dollars are spent responsibly and effectively? And the other question you can choose from is, does your platform include a plan to reduce red tape in order to foster growth for Edmonton-based small businesses while attracting outside investments?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I will take the second question. The red tape reduction program is already being implemented by the government of Alberta to reduce regulatory processes that negatively impact small businesses' progress and growth in the city of Edmonton. The government has planned to reduce the bureaucratic burden by 1/3, which would alleviate the regulatory burden on small businesses. By reducing the regulatory processes, businesses can thrive and attract more investments in the city. As the population of Edmonton increases and more outside investment is attracted to the city, a flexible and supportive environment needs to be developed to meet the needs of the growing population. Small businesses need clean, accessible public spaces. More support is needed for Edmonton-based small businesses to ensure a continued inflow of investment into the city and city spaces. Thank you very much.
Well done, thank you. Mr. Kassab.
We'll choose the budget question. Responsibility spending isn't about cuts, it's about priorities and respect for the taxpayer. If elected, my focus will be, the next budget will be on the 2 critical areas. First, core instructions, maintenance. We must prioritize fixing what we already have, our roads, sidewalks, and parks, before launching expensive new projects. Neglecting our foundation is a false economy that costs residents more in car repairs and lost times. And it adores our quality of life. This is responsible, effective, and a way of tax dollars that directly benefits every constituent. The second one, I will focus on restoring accountability in planning and development. The current approach has waste resources imposing infill laws, bike lanes, unpopular zoning changes, what created uncertainty and angered homeowners. I'll push to redirect these funds towards community resources planning. This means investing in consultation that actually listen to the community and in processes and approve sensible, context-sensitive info that protects property values instead of undermining them. The approach does 2 things. It ensures tax dollars are building what neighborhoods actually want and need, and to stop the wasteful spending on ideological projects that doesn't have to be public support. Ultimately, my budget principles is simple. Respect the hard-earned money of Edmontonians by delivering reliable core services and stopping the waste. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Aaron Rutherford. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one question. I can't answer both quickly.
If you can do it in 2 minutes.
Sure. For the first one, I would just say my platform has a lot of ideas on that, but renewal, renewal, renewal. We have a renewal deficit. The more we don't spend on renewal, the more it costs our city ops to fill potholes, to fix sidewalks. So renewal has to be a huge focus on the capital budget, and we need to change how we budget. I think as somebody that's experienced, we went through the 4-year budget in 2022. We have a 1-year runway before the 4-year budget for the next council, and we need to actually fundamentally shift how we're budgeting. However, I do think that one of the biggest things that's challenging our budget is things like the imbalance with our residential and our commercial class, tax subclass. And so we do need to make sure that businesses are thriving in our city and they create jobs, they strengthen our tax base, and they provide the services and products we rely on. So I think we need to continue to improve the regulatory environment and business. I do want to highlight that the zoning bylaw is a good example of that goal for local businesses. We consolidated zones and removed red tape in the commercial, mixed use, and industrial zones, as well as made it easier for home-based businesses with the zoning bylaw. We need to see measured progress in the city's economic action plan, including Action 1 that explicitly talks about red tape reduction. We need to advocate to the province for regulatory red tape that is within provincial legislation, which for businesses is a lot of it. And I am also passionate about retention and attraction of industrial development, especially in the Northwest and near the airport. This includes speeding up processes for approvals and a dedicated point of contact for industrial stakeholders. And lastly, I do want to highlight that in my term, I did have a dedicated staffer that was a liaison with businesses, because there are a lot of industrial and businesses in the ward. And I will continue this format into my next term.
And that's time. Perfect. Thank you. Mr. Watson, you're next. Do you want me to repeat any of the questions?
No.
You're good. Okay.
Test. Yeah, I'll start with. We're good?
Try again.
Hello?
No. Perhaps you can. That one.
Hello? Hey, my 2 minutes haven't started, right?
No, they have not started. I promise they haven't. Just a little technical.
Okay, I think,
There
hello.
you go.
Okay. Comment about business quickly is like we've had the worst commercial vacancy in history. Just a comment there. But what I'd like to say is infrastructure, it's funny because we drive around and it's pretty bad. The worst construction chaos we've ever had. I think we all can agree on that. So I'm going to try to synthesize the city where I would focus on and what I think is the most important that this council is afraid to do, okay? The city's 3 things: plan, build, manage. The planning function often doesn't talk to the managing function. I was in operations for a long time. We would get assets and not know that we have an asset coming. Planning, when I think about infill as a fundamental concept, whether you're pro or against it, you plan something, you give it to the operation maintenance, which is you, the taxpayer, and you may or may not be upset about it. Most people are upset. Now, when you think about a house, the city of Edmonton, if you went private sector, could demolish a house for $30,000 with asbestos. The city of Edmonton is demolishing houses for $180,000. That tells you that there's a problem that needs to be solved. It's either procurement, it's process, it's team. But we haven't explored that, which is why we have a $1 billion cost overrun in 4 years. Not 1 million, 1 billion. And what happens is that money goes on to debt and the interest goes on to the tax levy, which is why you've had a 25%, whatever it is these days, increase on your bill, okay? So we have to address the infrastructures team. There is an entire branch called infrastructure planning that sets the direction of everything in the city, including renewal. So we have to focus on the process there to make sure we rein it in. And I'll end with one comment. If you go to the City of Edmonton's website right now and you just Google the Yellowhead project, with this councillor, by the way, said she will hold to account. She's seen the waste. It's $120 million over budget, but the city's website says it's on budget. That tells you how systemic the problem is within the team. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Brady, you're next.
Hi, I'm going to touch on the budget question.
That's great.
So my approach throughout this whole campaign has been a back to basics approach. I know it sounds super simplified. However, we as a city are not doing it. So I'm not sure how many of you know, but we're spending approximately 60% of our budget on administration and labor alone. How does that sound? So one way, or the first way I believe to combat that, and what I support, is a zero-based budgeting model. So right now, each department is operating on prior year's budget, plus a little more. However, at a zero-based budgeting, every department needs to start at zero and justify their budget for the year. So I believe that will cut the waste, avoid complacency, and really get those departments to focus on the services that the residents are demanding. We need to obviously align our spending with priorities, not old habits. And right now, we have an issue where it's city administration that is running the ship, not council and a mayor. So, in a month here, I would love to see a strong mayor and a stronger council take those reins back, provide administration those priorities based on the voices of the residents, and force administration to reprioritize.
Thank you, Mr. Fadouk. I'm going to step back so the whole audience can see you.
I'm already in trouble. I have to sit down. So I'm going to talk about red tape, and I think red tape's an absolute killer. In fact, when we were here for Community League Day on Saturday, we spoke to the president of this Community League, and she shared a story about how the document to fill out to get a bike rack here was 10 pages long. It's true. After 6 months, nothing happened, a whole bunch of phone calls, and finally they send somebody out to put out a bike rack. I grew up in the country, and I say, put up a goddamn bike rack. Just put it up. Nobody needs to go through an application progress to put up a bike rack. At the Edmonton Police Information Service a week and a half ago now, they talked about how it used to be 10 minutes of paperwork with every incident. Now it's 40 minutes of paperwork. One lady I talked to when I was door knocking owns 3 dog grooming studios, only one in Edmonton, 2 outside. She tried to open up another one in Edmonton, got so frustrated with the process that after 6 months she said, I'm done, I'm going to go find another location outside of Edmonton. To me, that means things are far too complicated and we have way too many levels of management. We need more boots on the ground, more people working, not more levels of management. All of this adds to the cost of doing business. We should all be asking ourselves this question. Amazon just moved to the Edmonton region. They have 5.3 million square feet of warehouse, 0 in the city of Edmonton. Ask yourselves why. Well, red tape is one of them, property tax is the other one. On a personal note, and I share this story all the time too, we own 2 businesses inside the ward, so if that's an issue for anybody that Jesse likes to point out, I don't live in the ward, but we have 2 businesses here. So deeply, deeply ingrained in the ward. One of our businesses employs 55 people. The property taxes 2 years ago were $141,000. This year it's $196,000. Put that in perspective, that's $17,000 a month just in profit that we have to make. We found 3 locations outside of the city that we're going to go move to. The solution to me is this: focus on business, streamline the process, and elect a totally new business-friendly council.
I think we're going to start with, there we go, we got the right person with the right mic. Oh, that's right, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. The gentleman at the very end needs to answer this question. Ali Haymore, sorry about that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. While my platform has a plan to reduce red tape and attract new businesses, to the point where I want to make Edmonton the business hub of Alberta, my main focus would be the city budget. I believe that is the biggest responsibility for every city councillor. You have entrusted us with your money, so we have to make sure that money is spent wisely and every penny is accountable for. And that would be my strategy, is to bring in financial accountability. Because it's crucial, it's a crucial issue that must be addressed. Because city councillors have a responsibility to ensure that employees and managers are held accountable for their planning and execution of every project, from the initial design to the final completion. Over the years, we've witnessed millions of tax dollars wasted on poorly planned and inadequately executed projects that fail to deliver on their promises. And I'll highlight the Yellowhead conversion project, where there was $105 million over budget. That is unacceptable. I would definitely, follow through and make sure there is accountability on that. That money could have been used very well elsewhere. So that would be my first and foremost priority, is to make sure that we read line by line on the budget and make sure that the money is spent wisely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wajo, I think you need to answer question number 2 as well. Did you already ask that? Sorry, thank you. Part of the issue, just so you know, is that everyone sat in different order than I had in this order. So I've been kind of going, that was 3, that was 2, that was 1. Okay, so finally we have third question, Mr. Kassab. The question is regarding safety and community services. Residents have expressed increasing concerns about safety, including property crime, transit safety, visible drug use, the growing unhoused population, slow response times from first responders, and the need for appropriate police training with community support. So the question to you is, do you support a plan to integrate community and social service agencies with the Edmonton Police Service? If not, how will you work to ensure that the police services provide fair, effective support for all citizens, including the unhoused and vulnerable members? And how does this plan include improved safety for transit riders on routes, in transit stations, and on the LRT? And what role should the Edmonton Police Service play?
Well, to answer this question, it's yes, I absolutely support the collaboration integration model. The reality is that police cannot and should not be the only response to every social crisis. My plan is based on the right response by the right agency. I will champion funding for correspondent teams to pair mental health professionals and crisis co-workers with the police. This ensures vulnerable individuals get the care that they need while feeling up police to focus on serious crimes and real matters. This is more humane and effective use of resources. For transit safety, this integrated approach is critical. We need to highlight visible presence on platforms and trains, but the presence must be multi-faced. This means expanding the successful Transit Peace Officer program for consistent, community-oriented presence while ensuring APS, Edmonton Police Services, is deployed strategically and addresses serious crime activity and provide rapid backup. So the role of Edmonton Police Service is to handle law enforcement, ensuring our transit system is safe and safe from violence and crimes. The role of society and social agencies is to provide outreach and support. The roles of the city is to fund the facilitate this partnership so that every Edmontonian, whether the commuter on the somewhere or seeking shelters, feel safe and is not threatened with treated with dignity. It's about partnership, not police-only response.
Thank you very much, sir. Mrs. Rutherford.
Thank you. Before I begin, I do want to just clarify, when it comes to EPS, the city councilors, no matter who's elected in this position, has 2 roles. What are you going to fund the police for them to adequately and effectively do their police budget? This council's decided a funding formula that provides consistency is the way to go, and then appoint police commissioners. Those are the 2 roles. In terms of directing police, there is absolutely legislation that prevents councillors from even suggesting what the programs or services that funding is used for are used for. That being said, I do want to highlight that we have 2 councillors that are appointed to the commission. Those new councillors, there will be 2 new councillors appointed to the commission, our relationship with the commission has recently very much improved with the funding formula and some changes in the volunteers that work on that. And I'm very excited about the new chief of police that this council just appointed on Friday, who is really focused on a lot of the things I've heard from residents that are important, like community-based policing and scene police presence in terms of traffic safety and noise crackdowns. So I'm really optimistic with the new police chief that there's going to be a lot of opportunity in the future. In my term, I was a driver of community safety and the well-being framework that the city uses to guide our funding. I was appointed the advisor of REACH, Edmonton Safety Council, Community Safety Council, and I pushed for clear and consistent bylaws that govern things such as our public spaces. My platform discusses ideas around community safety, such as implementing the violence prevention plan, which is prevention is squarely in the role of a municipality, monitoring and measuring that framework that I mentioned before for accountability and making sure that it's achieving those goals, and more action on traffic safety.
Thank you, and that's time.
Okay, there we go.
Sorry, I didn't mean to startle you.
No, that's okay. I could talk a lot about safety. Thank you.
Mr. Watson.
Yeah, so I've knocked about 25,000 doors, and I've talked to a lot of EPS, fire, EMS. And the best part about having a coffee shop is that you get to talk to them very literally about their experience, the data, and what's actually happening on the ground, okay? So there is a safety problem in Edmonton, but there is already relationships that exist. EPS, fire, EMS, they do call for supports when it comes to mental health and the unhoused. What I would actually take a different approach to this, and I actually think the fundamental issue is that we need more housing, okay? Because $1 we're spending, we're missing that we're actually having an economic impact of $9 everywhere else through tourism, economic collapse, business shutters everywhere you look. And I think we actually have to address the housing first model, which is a model out of Europe that talks about housing people in micro units, not like a Capilano situation, supporting them where they're at through partnerships with the province. And that's been rough this last 4 years, partnerships in general on council with the EPS and with the province. And we have to mend those things to achieve it, because I think that if we double down on that, we're actually going to free up people's time. Because a lot of the issues I hear is time spent on repeat things, the same thing over and over, when we're missing traffic safety in neighborhoods, we're missing blitzing, we're missing violent crime. And EPS themselves recently said that priority number last is traffic safety, which is a big concern for a lot of people. So I would focus, of course we can always improve program relationships with people who support mental health, addictions, those sorts of areas. But I would actually think we have to actually focus on the housing side to really, really leverage and support EPS, fire, and our EMS colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Brady?
So as I understand it, the EPS already has relationships with a lot of these social groups. So what I would like to see is more funding, more encouragement towards that. However, what we've experienced in at least the past 4 years in this post-pandemic era is a loss of enforcement and deterrence. So in my discussions with the EPS, essentially the growth of the city has outpaced its police service. So, come new council, that's definitely something we need to put more funding in. We need eyes on the street. We need better community policing. Back in the day, when it comes to public transit, you used to have actual officers go through. Then we switched to a model of security for hire, and then we switched to a model of just transit peace officers. They just simply don't have the mandate to be effective. It's essentially an observe, call, wait for police to show up. So whether we go back to a model of having more physical police presence on our transit systems, stations, within our communities, I would support that. And with the community leagues, with community groups, we need to go back to that community policing. It used to be a pretty productive model that we've lost, so I really want to encourage that. It's not only about enforcement. You need all three. You need preventative services, you need support services, and you need enforcement. In terms of my view on housing, You can stick someone that has addiction and mental issues under a roof, but is that the only solution? There needs to be wraparound services. They need to equally be, prioritized.
Thank you very much. Mr. Fadouk.
I'm going to echo a little bit of that. So there are already several programs that do connect social agencies with police, social workers, EMTs, volunteers, psychologists, nurses. My wife is a labor and delivery nurse, and she actually participates in one of those programs. It's called AVERT, which helps infants in trouble. I'm a big believer in actually talking to the people that actually do the work on the ground, get their perspective before making any big decision. We have programs that work, we have programs that are not working, and throwing more money at the problem just for the sake of doing something is not the solution. As for the homeless situation, I'm going to be on an island here because I think my opinion is probably different than everybody else. If we cannot, as a society, actually acknowledge what the truth is, we are never going to solve the problems. In my opinion, the city needs to do three things. Number one, that's work with the province, and I talked about that earlier. We need to get some serious funding to actually put people into programs that'll work. And when I say that, I mean programs for like 6, 7, 8 more months. Not these things where they turn them around in 2 months and then they go back out and they're back on drugs within 2 weeks after that. That doesn't do any good. I'm talking about helping someone refine their self-worth and their sense of purpose. And the city can incentivize businesses to help employ people like that. Number two, some folks do need to be involuntarily held and helped into programs. And I'm referring, and every one of you have seen this, by the way. Thank you. Every single person has seen this. The person who's walking on the streets, screaming at the air, fighting his own demons. One of my best friends is a psychologist, and her and I talk about this all the time. She agrees with this plan, by the way, and she is a left-leaning person. But we agree with this. You cannot convince me in 100 years that that person would be better off on the street in minus 25, self-medicating with hard drugs than they would be in a program that actually has supervised help. And talk to any police officer or anybody else, the cost of that situation is way greater than actually providing help. Number three, there is a segment of the population, and we know what they're like, they exploit the less fortunate. And I'm talking about the 30-year-old guy who was riding a BMW with his hat on backwards. You know that guy. He belongs in jail. He's a thief.
Thank you, that's time. Sorry about that.
I practiced this. This is a win 45.
I completely agree. I understand. I myself, as an actor, have had to time myself over and over and over again. But you speak passionately, and we appreciate everything that you said. We are going to go to Mr. Ali. Thank you. Please continue.
While door knocking, I met a young gentleman who was a student in grade 12. And he told me while waiting at a bus stop, waiting for the bus to go home, 3 people approached him and called him on, and one of them was pulling something out of their pocket. He got scared, he was frightened, and he was praying. Suddenly, a marked car came around the corner, and those 3 gentlemen changed their direction and started walking the other way. And luckily for him, the bus came around the corner and he got on and he was safe. A marked car is a strategy that we can have, and go back to that strategy a strategy that we can have where we can allow police to go back driving marked cars. Right now, 1/3 of those cars are unmarked. Officer presence is a deterrence. It really is. You know, it brings safety to the community. People know when they see a marked car, they feel safe. People at bus stops feel safe. And that's what I think one strategy we can use. Even if you're driving for traffic purposes, you know, you see a marked car, all of a sudden you're watching your speed, you make sure your seatbelt's on, all the way to your destination. In fact, I would argue that a marked car parked with no officer in there has a bigger impact than the photo radar on the side of the road. So that would be one strategy I would suggest to Edmonton Police. I'd also empower peace officers with more powers and let them, exercise and help out a little bit more with law enforcement. They're actually asking for that. You know, they would like more powers so that they can also help out with fighting crime. I do support the plan to integrate community and social services agencies with Edmonton Police. I believe that's already in play. we could increase it, and we can.
Thank you, Mr. Hamer.
Yeah,
That's
thank
your
you.
time. Mr. Uejo,
Thank you.
please continue.
I do support the integration of police and social services agencies, because community and social services agencies are the pillars of community safety. You cannot only use the authority of the police or law enforcement to enforce safety and security, which is fair and balanced. However, I propose in my platform that the community will have to work together with the authorities, which is the EPS, to ensure the safety of the community. Community safety is the responsibility of community itself. Working hand in hand with the authorities, that is the EPS, to ensure fair and effective services for all citizens. A fair and effective service will include services for our vulnerable community. While we have a constituency that we are voted to serve the vulnerable community out there who have no houses or addresses, form part of our community without a leader, and they need to be protected. Community and social service agencies, including the police, may require more funding. That's what I'm proposing. And training to ensure the safety of the communities we are being elected to serve, including the vulnerable and unhoused communities. This can be done through liaising between the community social service agencies and EPS by organizing inter-agency meetings and forums. It's also important to consider newcomers to Edmonton when deciding on policy alternatives. There needs to be community engagement and an establishment of dialogue between newcomers
Thank you,
and
Mr. Wajo.
police.
That's your time. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, we'll begin with Mrs. Rutherford with the next question on city infrastructure and our ward. There are many civic projects that affect Ward Anirniq. Why do I keep saying that? I'm not Inuit. Anirniq. Directly and indirectly. I could also say Ward 2 or this ward. We all know what we're talking about. Thank you. I'm going to start over again. There are many civic projects that affect our ward directly and indirectly, from expanding bike lanes, multi-use paths to downtown, revitalization, River Valley development, Blatchford, the extensive infrastructure and road construction projects. Many of these bring benefits, but they also create disruptions that impact residences, businesses, and commuters. So here's your question. What are your plans for this ward to balance the varying needs of commuters? How will you address the needs of communities as they experience the often adverse impacts of nearby infrastructure improvement? What steps would you take to improve coordination and planning to minimize disruptions for drivers, transit, and business throughout our city?
Thank you. So, first and foremost, my platform talks about improved transportation maintenance in all seasons. I think we all know that snow removal is not where we want it to be. Pothole fixing is not where we want it to be. We have had reports this last year that show the significant cost. We've added 4,000 kilometers of road right-of-way. We decreased the budget by 12%. That's before this council. This council has, over time, gradually been increasing that. And yes, it does affect property taxes, but these are the core services we're hearing are important to Edmontonians. And when they're not done properly, it affects the longevity of those assets. We need to focus, for me, are ensuring that we have equitable services and assets throughout the city, not just in areas on the south side. That's absolutely an imperative for me and something I've been a strong champion for. We need to make sure we have better construction, communication, and sequencing, and in fact, that's definitely been something that this council has already noticed, and I've supported with the infrastructure committee that has been struck up. They've only had a couple meetings, but we know we need to dig into it more. And lastly, I would say on my term on council, I've helped direct more than $1 billion into our ward for major projects like recreation centers, fire halls, transit, and renewal of our streets. And that's more than any other councillor has ever secured. I'm really proud of that. I think we need to continue with things like neighborhood renewal that integrate both the renewal aspects with some improvements so that those assets last the next 60 years. And in terms of things like going over budget, yes, Yellowhead went over budget. Steel went up 25% because of supply chain demand issues. You have to still meet your obligations with the other orders of governments for what you committed to build. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Watson, do you need me to repeat any of the question?
No, I think I'm okay. Thank you.
Awesome.
How's everyone doing? Okay? Okay, so, infrastructure is interesting. We know the state of, it's chaos to get anywhere. I'm going to talk about something probably more intimate. I was at the city for a long time, and so I like to say I know the belly of the beast, so to speak. And we don't need an infrastructure committee. It is bureaucracy. We also don't need an infrastructure coordinator downtown. I feel that's bureaucracy. We have an entire branch at the City of Edmonton called infrastructure planning. Okay? We also have a branch called strategic services. They strategically do something. Then we have department strategies. Then we have business teams. We have so many groups, but yet they're siloed. And yet our value as a city is integration, right? So I would actually be looking at ourselves to say, how can we better coordinate? Fundamentally, if something comes to council, it should be like, well, is this going to impact A, B, C, and D? And there's very simple ways to do that. Traffic flow directions and traffic lights. We don't do that here. In Vancouver, you can go from downtown all the way airport with one set of green lights during rush hour, okay? I would also deploy AI. The city has AI where it wouldn't take away jobs, where you can literally say, if I'm doing an OSCAM permit on the road and somebody else is doing it, how does that traffic flow model? How does it model out the traffic impacts? So it's not a state of chaos. And then you would plan appropriately and say, hey, citizens, we're actually going to get you from A to B. So I don't want to create bureaucracy. I think we need to look at ourselves. And if something comes to council, we have to really say, how's the impact going to be? What does it mean? And lastly, I would say we need to stop rubber stamping plans across the entire city like complete streets. Bonnie Doon is not Calder. Calder is not Dunluce. And it's really important that we remember that. We have an identity. We are a community of communities. We fund the Edmonton Federation of Community Leagues for that reason. We have identity. But we keep going through every community doing the exact same thing. And that impacts construction all the time. That impacts things that you may not need. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Brady?
So when it comes to infrastructure, in terms of transportation in particular, transportation networks should complement, not compromise, existing infrastructure. So whether that's bike lanes or busways, when it comes to neighborhood renewal for infrastructure, renewal should be renewal. It shouldn't be re-engineering, which we've seen that in the ward. So at the end of the day, one of the big issues with infrastructure in a transportation sense in the city is that there is no coordination with these projects. You think that the construction on Jasper Ave and the construction on 104th, they are coordinated. They aren't. They operate completely in silos, completely separate. So the city is due for several bridge renewals in the next coming years. They are reaching their capacity. So if we don't have that coordination in the departments, you can have a couple bridges closed at the same time. You think it's pretty common sense and it's basic, but unfortunately that hasn't been happening. So again, reprioritizing, restructuring. There are too many departments in the city that are overlapping, working in their own little circles. And I just need to coordinate and base these infrastructure projects based on the priorities of the neighborhood. And again, yes, context specific, community specific. What works in Windermere doesn't always work, in established neighborhoods in this ward.
Thank you very much.
If I win, I'm going to introduce putting the numbers back into the wards. I am. I absolutely am. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to take a different approach than Jesse. I'm actually going to side with Maya on this one. I do believe that we need a major project coordinator If you look at things like this, the entirety of that position should be coordinating all the major projects of the city. We have 3 bridges coming into downtown that are all under construction right now. By the way, the Wellington Bridge that was just recently closed was closed from 2014 to 2016. It was over budget and over time, like usual, for the low cost of $32 million. And just this week, they told us that bridge is now at the end of life cycle. Why did we spend $32 million then to replace it in 8 years? That's $4 million a year to drive over a bridge. Absolute insanity. Every Edmontonian should be outraged at this. We've talked about the constant frustration with construction timelines. 104th Avenue has been under construction for 5 years. I say this with tongue in cheek. China built a hospital during COVID in 10 days. We can't build a road in 5 years? Do we need to bring back a horse and buggy to do stuff? Like, I don't get it. Let's start holding the parties that be accountable. That's the contractors, that's everybody involved from start to finish. And let's let the residents have a say on that, whether we hire them back again. As for the north side, again and again and again we hear from people that bus service is unreliable and the city has reduced routes. And all the while they're preaching environmental friendliness. If you want people to ride the bus, make it safe, make it affordable, and make it reliable. Mismanagement from the top down, once again. Proper consultation, good leadership will get us where we need to go. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Wonderful. And we'd like to go back to Mr. Haymore for your answer to this question. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. One project that is directly affecting our ward and impacting residents is bike lanes. The project has narrowed the roads, eliminated parking spots, and emergency services responding to an emergency find it time-consuming to get to their emergency location because of the congested traffic that there is. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm all for making our city more safer and accessible for everyone. But this type of design of bike lanes is ridiculous. It's frustrating, and many people are complaining about it. It's on 97th Street and 132 Avenue, and they're expanding it eastbound all the way to Kensington and Wellington. And the residents there have told me it is wrong. This is wrong. You know, they don't want to see it. And the reality is that the fraction of people using those lanes, the bike lanes, is very small compared to all the drivers that, you know, are in the area. So they just recently had a motion put forward that to pause bike lanes. And if I was sitting on city council, I would have voted yes, pause that project right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wajo?
Thank you very much. Balancing the needs of the commuters and the impacts of construction improvements is a delicate issue. Whether it's the construction of the bike lane or expansion of the lanes, whatever interferes with the smooth flow of the traffic is not an alternative. As a councillor, before deciding on the impacts of construction development, it's important to always have consultative meetings with our constituencies. Where there is heavy traffic, bike lanes may be necessary. However, that may have to be discussed with the community before the projects are implemented. There are infrastructure developments that are good and beneficial to the community. That will have to be maintained and improved for the betterment of the community. In all this, community consultation is important for final decision of the council. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My plan on this for Ward Anirniq is to build on communication, balance, and smarter coordination. First, we must balance commuter needs by investing in all modes of transportation. That means synchronizing traffic lights to keep vehicles moving efficiently, but also ensuring we have a safe, clear pathway for pedestrians and for other commuters. We can't neglect one for another. When it comes for disruptive infrastructure projects, the current models of announce and define it as broken. Mandates across ward and avoid any unnecessarily bike lanes or construction that affecting everybody else. My goal is to deliver necessary upgrades with respect for the people who live and work in here and every day.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to question 5, and Mr. Watson will begin with the answering once I give the question. So this 5th question is regarding housing and infill. So while many residents acknowledge the importance of infill to increase housing availability and reduce urban sprawl, the way it is currently being implemented has left many feeling unheard and unsatisfied. Concerns include inadequate infrastructure such as plumbing and utilities, increased congestion, and parking pressures, loss of sunlight and green space, declining property values, changes in the character of established neighborhoods, and a wave of low-quality multiplex construction that almost stands in a category by itself. Some communities have even turned to restrictive covenants as a last resort, feeling that they have no real voice or resource within the city. So the question to each of you is, how will you change infill policies to support housing needs while reflecting constituents' concerns?
First of all, yeah, this is a great one. So I'm an economist, but I'm also a planner. And I like to caveat, I haven't worked in planning because everyone on council right now is a planner. But what I think has happened is we've eroded what house means. It used to mean home. Now it means investment. Okay, and we see it out there. In the mature area, something like 95% of everything going in 5 units or more is rental. And that's fine, we need rental. But it's become an investment tool for foreign investment. And this council is not even, they're doubling down essentially on it. They haven't looked at investment as an issue in Edmonton. They haven't looked at the destruction of context, heritage, and community voice. When we rolled neighborhood planning into district planning, we essentially removed the voice of context, right? And we are destroying our heritage context. We are destroying our neighborhoods. When I go back to community of communities, we have an identity, and it's important to remember that. So, you know, for me, it's simple. A lot of people get hung up on 8 units, 6 units, 4 units. There's a lot of lot sizes here, right? I think we need to bring back a parking ratio, okay? I think this council's completely has no clue what the parking impacts happening in some neighborhoods, okay? Then I do believe we need to level up our landscaping requirements. We have a loss of our tree canopy. That's we are not planting as many as we are putting. And that if that means go from 4 trees to 8 trees, we need to seriously do that. And then context. And context is simple. It's architecture and it's massing. We used to do some level of context. We need to look at that. And those are 3 simple motions to do. This council has asked administration to do something in December 2026. And I'm telling you, we don't have time to wait. We have to act now, and a new council has to pay attention because otherwise our identity will be lost. Thank you.
Thank you. I know we can get very enthusiastic. I just remind people that we have a very limited time, so keep your applause to the minimum if it's impacting your candidate's time to speak. So I will begin with Mrs. Brady. Thank you so much.
All right, so the hot button topic here. So my view on infill is that, of course, we need densification, we need affordable housing. However, the way that it's been done within our communities does not take into consideration the community context or community voices at all. So, you know, come new council, I would definitely support changes to the current bylaw. These include minimum parking restrictions, definitely a focus on aesthetics, height minimums, maybe changes to lot ratio. And one thing that hasn't been factored in yet is lot massing. So whether that's, you know, putting a square footage cap based on the land, there's definitely policies in place that can be done to promote smarter development. It's not a black and white where, you know, we don't want any sort of development. I'm sure majority of you can agree that there is a need in the city, but no one's voices are really being heard with these bylaws. at the end of the day as well, there's places in the city that we can promote growth. So places like Blatchford, the Coliseum lands by Rexall, down by South Campus, there is available land that is owned by the city that should be sold off and used to promote growth. They're close to transportation networks, shopping malls, other networks. So rather than sticking it smack in the middle of a cul-de-sac with limited access, we can focus that attention and growth elsewhere. This kind of brings me back to the point of these blanket policies in general, infill being one of them. In my part of the ward, we're brand new. We don't have issues with infill. However, what you've seen in a street next door to me is that there's a corner house, maybe 1,700 square foot, that is now, due to a blanket policy, being converted into a commercial level daycare. That's for 34 kids, 8 adults. So again, I support affordable childcare within communities, but just like the infill issue, it's these blanket policies that do not take
Thank you,
community
Mrs. Brady.
into context.
That's your time. Thank you so much. Mr. Fadouk, go ahead.
Part of the reason I joined PACE was their position on infill. So just to be clear, our position has always been the same. Number one, for mid-development, mid-lot development, mid-block development, 4 units maximum. End lot, 6 units maximum. And it has to provide the following. Number one, minimum parking requirements. And by the way, the stats from the province is 1.5 vehicles per dwelling. Height limitations, we talked about that one. What does that mean? Well, that means you can't go so high that your neighbor doesn't have any sunlight anymore. And they used to, thank you, they used to actually have a thing called window alignment. So if you built a new house, you couldn't have your window staring directly into your neighbor's house. It's totally unfair to everybody. And lastly, neighborhood consultation with the ability to appeal. This is a big one, and I think that gives the power back to the communities. Downtown Edmonton has 405 vacant lots right now. You talk to developers, they say there's no incentive whatsoever to develop downtown, primarily because the city has this bylaw saying that you have to have commercial on the main floor. If you walk downtown, there is nothing but vacancy down there. You don't need more commercial space downtown. Let's actually listen to the people that do the work, and then we'll find something that's a solution. Furthermore, I've talked about this before, if we're spending billions and billions of dollars on LRTs, why isn't that zoning, or that land on either side of the rail line, zone medium or high density housing? That accomplishes 2 things. Number one, it takes the pressure off neighborhoods in the middle of the neighborhoods and pushes it to the outside and allows the neighborhoods to keep their character. And number 2, you actually build in ridership so you can actually maybe 150 years from now make a profit on the LRT. Maybe. By the way, Lauren Gunther wrote in the journal that it's going to take $2 billion for the South Leg going to Ellerslie. If you do the math on that, 15,000 riders, it's literally going to take about 140 years to pay that off. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So now we'll go back to the other side. Mr. Hamer.
Hi. Thank you. My position on that is we have to find that delicate balance. We went from one extreme where there was too many restrictions and barriers for building, and then we went to the other extreme where you're allowed to build as many units as you want. Well, not as many, but I mean there's a lot of units which impacts the neighborhood and parking, infrastructure, and others. But I believe that the infill bylaw needs to be practical, enforceable, and is in the best interest of mature neighborhoods. If the bylaw adds unnecessary bureaucracy or costs, I will oppose it. If it addresses real safety or community concerns in a fair way, I'll support it. My commitment is to balance common sense with community needs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wadjo.
Thank you. Infills is a great way to ease housing demands in the city. It helps families stay together and near each other. Children can build an infill house for their parents to take care of their grandchildren. It's a great way to keep families together to make retirement meaningful for older parents. However, infill can burden the neighborhood by shrinking these empty spaces. It increases the number of people living in the neighborhood, increases the number of cars. That means no parking spaces or cramped parking spaces. affecting it burdens the services like schools in the area and so on. It reduces property values and affect individual investments, especially in the mature areas. Because of this, infill is not a good way to expand services in the city of Edmonton. Better policy guidelines need to be developed if infill development is required in the city, taking into consideration where in the city the infill can be built without negatively affecting the residents of the area. That's my position.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Kassab.
My approach to the infill is guided by a simple principle: context over chaos. We must support gentle density without sacrificing the character and stability of our established neighborhoods. First, I will push to oppose the blanket rezoning that has caused so much fear and uncertainty. We need to hit reset and get this right. Next, we will reinstate sensible rules that respect existing communities. This means prioritizing corners lots and main arteries for multiple housing, not middle of acquired single-family blocks. Enforces stricter rules on building scales, setbacks, and shadowing to protect a neighbor's privacy and sunlight. When I door knock, I see a lot of people who telling me, look at this. He's blocking my sun. Look at this, he's blocking my air. This is not acceptable. Mandating real communities, consultation, not just notification. So projects has to be buy-in form for those who live there. This isn't about stopping infill. It's about steering it wisely. We can add missing middle housing like duplex or townhome in appropriate areas while protecting the hard-earned investments of homeowners who build their lives there. We will meet housing needs by working with communities, not against them.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Rutherford.
Thank you. Before I talk about infill, I just want to discuss some of the information in our recent housing needs assessment that said that 48,000 Edmontonians, and that was in 2021, are in core housing need. So I appreciate the housing first sentiment. We have 4,000 at the last count that needed permanent supportive housing. We can't build enough affordable housing to address that. We need the entirety of the spectrum of housing, including market housing, to address this. And that's what one of the things that the zoning bylaw does. That being said, it was always meant to be a living document. We did, as what is the case with most things when you're an elected representative, you make the best decision with the information that you have at the time, and you commit to adjusting and adapting as things change. And that's exactly the case of the zoning bylaw. We made the best decision we had at the time. There was a public hearing that lasted 5 days. We had EPCOR consult with us on infrastructure and their lack of concern about infrastructure. But to me, there's no doubt that infill is an important component for financial, social, and environmental sustainability. Another thing I'd like to highlight is that I have pushed for infill accountability. It was something I heard was important in 2021, and I'm proud to see the project implementation plan has been rolled out this year, which includes considerations for construction on any inventory on the historical designated site adjacent to a construction. And then the construction accountability program, which will actually have legally sound grounds for the municipality to deny development permits for bad builders. So these are two things that I've heard and we're responding to. I also recently moved a motion about reducing the height in the RS zone. We approved a bunch of amendments, including massing in the last one, and my platform talks about where I think it's appropriate to address parking, which is in our district plans.
Thank you very much. That's exactly time. And we're going to move to Maya Brady for the 6th question. This is on climate action. So climate change is one of the most pressing issues of our time. How will you work to ensure meaningful action on climate policy, prioritizing green spaces, guiding infill, and preserving Edmonton's river valley? Thank you.
So environmental concerns need to be considered, but not at the compromise of development. One example that I'd like to bring forward doesn't particularly affect our ward, but it might give you a reflection, is that City of Edmonton needs 4 new fire stations. We can't afford them because at a tune of approximately $25 million, we don't have the budget. Why is that? A big factor is that we've set our own regulations so that these new fire stations have to be eco-friendly, they have to be net zero. So these are regulations that we as a city are imposing on ourselves and preventing that development. So, as residents, you have to decide, is it more important to have that basic infrastructure, or is it more important that we have a net zero, right? So a lot of times when it comes to these environmental regulations that we self-impose, it is getting in the way of things that we need, services. Maybe if we, have better roads, better roadways, we're spending less time idling in our cars, which at the end of the day contributes to, environmental factors. So we need to take a look at that before we prioritize these goals. Of course, it's important, preserving green space, preserving the river valley. New developments in the city, they are required to do that. The new suburbs, they have to have green spaces and so forth, so we need to support what's currently going on.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Mr. Fadouk.
I think Edmonton's fallen into a trap here, quite honestly. There's been some good intentions, but the end results have had the exact opposite effect. And I will cite the example that Maya just used. The last fire hall in Edmonton cost $17.5 million. The identical one built in Leduc was $5.4 million without the environmental add-ons. The second point I want to make is about 132 bike lane design. This has been a nightmare for residents, and it's made the city actually more dangerous and added more pollution. You're going to ask, how does that happen? Well, here's how it happens. First of all the traffic on 132, when there's a bus, they have to stop at every single bus stop, so you have 5, 10, 15 cars idling behind the bus every single time. The other thing that's happened is that 135 Ave, running through the center of Roslyn, has now become a raceway. People tell us all the time, there's cars doing 70, 80, 90 kilometers an hour. What else happens? Well, people either go to 137th Avenue, so adding 5 blocks north and 5 blocks south to get back. And of course, 137th is already high traffic, so you're going to go slower there, or you're going to go all the way down to 127, and you're going to be on the Canadian Autobahn there. Thank you. So all of this has resulted in more costs, more pollution, and less safety, all for the low cost of $9 million for that segment of bike lanes. I'm a big reader, and my favorite author is Malcolm Gladwell. He talks about every city in North America, and the only one that's actually made any kind of dent in this is Denver. There was a professor that actually invented a radar gun that measures emissions. Why can't Edmonton do that? It turns out that 5% of the cars on the road make 55% of the emissions out there. The city actually invested in those cars, fixed the cars. There is now a 35% reduction in pollution in Denver. That is what good business thinking does. That's what creativity does. It's not what council is doing now. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll go to Mr. Hamer for your answer on the climate action.
I'll start off by saying I believe climate change is real. One phenomenon that I'm seeing year after year is freezing rain, because that impacts our public safety and our economy. And I will work hard to work with our snow removal department to make sure we find some sort of solution to freeze and rain. I remember reading in the Edmonton Journal one day in January, there was 250 accidents reported. Those are the reported ones, not including the unreported ones. So it's a very, an issue that we have to monitor in the near future because it does impact each and every one of us. I also support protecting and enjoying our river valley, but I don't support commercializing it. The river valley is Edmonton's jewel, and we must keep it accessible, safe, and environmentally protected without burdening taxpayers with more costly and unneeded projects. That would be my position on the river valley. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Wadjoe.
Thank you. With the increasing population, and the pressure for more housing units. The green spaces will be the next target for building additional housing units within the city. Green spaces is a great way to preserve our environment and maintain energy transition. Throughout the networks that have already been formed under the Integrating Green Spaces and Climate Action, it's imperative that the decision on climate action be upheld. In this, an expert opinion may be required to make an informed decision. As a councillor, I will urge the council to commission a study to reaffirm the decision on climate action in the climate change environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kassab.
My climate action is to build on foundation of practical local solution that enhance our city's livability. First, we must protect or expand our green spaces, especially our cherished river valley. This means enforcing stronger protection against erosions and overdevelopment to preserve this natural crown jewel for generation. It's our city's largest carbon sink, and we must treat it as a non-negotiable asset. Second, we will use smart infill and climate tools. Dense walkable communities reduce emission, but density done wrong without green spaces, tree canopies, or proper drainage. The proper drainage create heat islands and runoff problems. My policy will be required green standards for new builds, mandate tree preservation, and encourage infill inappropriate. We will service well-serviced areas to create truly sustainable communities. Finally, meaningful actions means empowering neighborhoods with the tools to be resilient, more trees, more greens, more options, and support for local reinforce. This is how we build a sustainable Edmonton and Ward Anirniq from the ground up, by making our neighborhood greener, healthier, and more climate resilient.
Thank you. Go ahead.
And first, I just want to thank Rob for bringing up and Nirmaya for bringing up the fire halls. I was actually the first councillor to ask that question and generated the report at which you referenced, because I know it is a problem and one that we need to address. Every decision, that being said, every decision at council, I truly do see holistically as a climate decision, and I want to talk about it in terms of one that might seem a little bit disparate, and that's our recently debated animal care and control bylaw. And while you're thinking, how does animal care and control bylaw affect climate? How we decide to address roaming and feral cats has an impact on biodiversity, especially in areas like our river valley, because they are killing machines, as I've learned, all right, for our native bird species. So how we make decisions on those kind of things does impact our biodiversity. So every decision has a link to climate in my perspective. My platform discusses green spaces. I've always been a champion for green spaces in the River Valley. So for example, making sure we're funding the River Valley Trail strategy is imperative. Making sure we're continuing to have funding to acquire land in the River Valley when it becomes available, like the northeast park that was acquired due to my moving that at the budget. And protection of our tree canopy. We're dealing with Dutch elm disease right now. That's been really ravaging our tree canopy. So we need to plant more trees. We need to have more biodiversity in our tree canopy. And we need to make sure that tree stands are getting their natural area designations. Lastly, infill is climate action, but we have been making sure that there's landscape securities. We've made sure that a certain amount of the ground remains permeable and green, and we will continue to do more on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Watson, when you're ready.
Okay, I would start by saying, what is the problem we're trying to solve? And I say that because every time I turn around, the city is doing the polar opposite of a greening initiative. So I'll just list a couple examples, okay? I'm walking around my neighborhood and there's a water truck watering trees and the water's pouring out of the basin. Okay, yeah, that's environmental. We put solar panels on buildings that aren't turned on. Okay, believe it or not, $15 million, and then it goes onto the tax levy. Okay, it costs you more money. 132nd Avenue, whether you're for or against bike lanes, we decided to put a 6-foot stretch of grass 9 kilometers long when we could have naturalized and flood mitigated, which was in a report. Instead, we chose grass. And as a result, now EPCOR is digging out Grand Trunk Park for $55 million to do the exact same thing 2 blocks south. Everything's costing us money. Every time EPCOR digs up a project of concrete after we just renewed, that is waste. So when I look at all of this environmental conversation, it's like I actually don't know what the city's trying to do. When I look at infill, we allow builders to clear cut lots. Then we're trying to put the trees back, but we're not putting enough trees back. Developers, we ask them to maintain trees for 2-year warranty periods, and they do a great job. And then guess what? The city takes it over and they die. So it's our service level. It's not there because we're putting solar panels on buildings that aren't being turned on. So my priority would actually be trying to solve, like, what are we trying to achieve in our climate goals? I think we can all agree that there's a climate problem, but what do we actually have to do and how does that look? Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Everyone's doing great. We are now going to move on to our final closing questions. For your closing remarks, you will have 3 minutes this time, and you may choose one or more of the following questions to respond to. Please conclude by sharing what you most look forward to if given the privilege of representing Ward Anirniq on City Council. Now, here are the questions. There's 6 of them, and I'm going to read them out so that you all know what we've provided to them, and you can choose whichever one you like. And of course, we'll begin with you, Mr. Fadouk. So the questions are, what unique skill or experience will you bring to the role of City Councillor? 2, what do you see as a top priority for this ward? If you previously addressed this, feel free to bring a deeper perspective. 3, how important is community engagement, and how will you remain approachable, responsive, and accountable? 4, what do you see as the biggest challenge facing Edmonton City Council over the next 4 years? 5, looking back, is there a council decision you would approach differently? And the final option is, how do you view crime, drug use, and the needs of displaced or vulnerable residents as social issues, criminal issues, or both? And how would you address them?
Thank you. So I believe in transparency, and I'm an open book. This is going to be like the political full Monty right now for me. Thank you for the reference and getting that. Thank you. I grew up in a small town of 250 people. And the truth is, I'm a product of teenage lust. My parents miraculously got married as teenagers, and they stayed together until my dad died about 8 years ago. We grew up somewhat poor, but we were genuinely happy. We lived in a single-wide trailer, and the truth is, if we didn't plant the garden every year, we probably wouldn't eat. Both my grandmothers were school teachers. My one grandfather was a farmer. My other one owned an Esso refilling station for the rail line. And both my parents worked 2 jobs. I went to NAIT for business, I went to Concordia for an arts degree, and I managed to make myself a millionaire until one deal, and then I wasn't a millionaire anymore, and I owed a lot of money to a lot of people, and that took 5 years to repay. And then I made it all back, and COVID came, and I lost it all again. And now I've rebuilt it again. So I'm in a good spot. My wife is finally happy. And the good thing about me is I've got a vast life experience. I can tell stories forever on this kind of stuff. I treat everybody the same, and I can talk to any walk of life. I'm a fighter, I'm tenacious, I'm creative, and I don't stop. One of the most watched TED Talks is about what makes winners win. The answer isn't intelligence, it isn't your genes, it's not social standing, it's grit. Grit is the belief that you can accomplish anything, you'll never stop. My friends, oh, this is true. My friends actually have a pool that if I get elected, how long it's going to be before I snap. I bought the square that said 1 month, so we'll see if that happens or not. I truly believe that over the last 10 years, the goalposts have slowly moved, and now people are waking up saying, how did we get to this spot? It's time for a reset back to common sense. This is likely the most important election Edmonton has ever had, and you need to elect somebody with grit. On October 20th, I'm asking you for your trust, and I'm asking you for your vote. Thank you.
And Mr. Hamer, for your final remarks.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. First, I want to thank the organizers for putting together tonight's event, and I'm especially grateful for them for allowing me to participate on such short notice. I only found out this morning. But most importantly, I want to thank all of you for getting involved in the future of our city, because that's what this is all about, and this election is about. It's about the future. The person you choose to represent you will be making decisions that impact your daily life, decisions that will shape the future of our community, our children, and our quality of life. He or she will decide how much you pay in property taxes and local fees, where those funds are allocated, whether to policing or bike lanes, transportation, or a raise for Mayor Sohi. And how core services like garbage collection, snow removal, and road maintenance are delivered in your neighborhood. I'm running in this election because, like many of you, I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated by the poor political decisions made over the years, and I'm tired of watching our quality of life decline as a result. We've seen the effects of bad spending, rising property taxes and business taxes that push families out of their homes and force small businesses to close their doors. We've seen poor budgeting decisions such as defunding the police or failing to build affordable housing, which contributes to a rise in crime and homelessness. I believe it doesn't have to be this way. I will be a representative who puts Edmontonians first. I promise to allocate our tax dollars in accordance with priorities, not politics. I promise to prioritize safety, ensure housing for everyone, and support mid-size and small businesses. By putting Edmontonians first, we can build a city where everyone, regardless of income, can afford to live and thrive. That's why I'm here, and that's why I'm asking for your support. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you. Mr. Wajo.
Thank you, and I want to appreciate and thank everyone here, the organizers and the public alike, who are here to hear what we have to offer. What we are talking about is development, development, development. So whether it's building new houses, whether it's bike lanes and so on and so forth, all these are considered development. And my background is in development, and I have experience in government reforms. So I'm looking forward to getting into the council and contributing to the development of this city. And I ask for your votes. And I'm answering another question about how important is community engagement and how will you remain approachable, responsive, and accountable. Community engagement is one of the pillars of my campaign platform. As a councillor, I will have an open door policy, so community members will easily and directly contact me. I will fight to have a ward office or contact point where constituent members will ask questions. We will have an open periodic community engagement forum where the issues of concern will be discussed. In this regard, the community needs to be sensitized about the issues that may impact them directly. And they can always contact me and reach my office if I'm elected. So I'm asking for your votes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Kassab, whenever you're ready.
Thank you all for coming, and I appreciate the organizer and the committees. And thanks for the candidate for showing up. And I would like to add to that, my top priority for this ward is restoring trust and common sense to the City Hall. The biggest challenges is facing councillor is a loss of public confidence. We saw this in a top-down blanket rezoning bylaw, a decision I would have vehemently opposed. It ignores constituents' concerns and undermines the property values of hardworking families. That's why my unique experience as a small business owner, community advocate is critical. I'm not a career political. I'm a practical problem solver who listens. I'm a father, I'm a neighbor, I'm a concern, just like you are. That directly informs my view on community safety and vulnerability. These are complex issues demanding both compassion and enforcement. We need integrated crisis response to help the vulnerable and strong police presence to ensure safety on our streets and transit. My commitment to you is this. I'll be your accountable, accessible, and responsive voice. I will always put the interests of our community first, fight to protect our investments, and ensure our ward characters is respected. You have my words. It's your money, it's your voice, it's your choice. I'm not here to make them for you. I'm here to represent you. My second promise is I will make and ensure I will have once a month a meeting with all community leagues. And I've told that to the president who's here. I've been meeting with them and trying to volunteer and be presence for them, because we need to sit down on the table. You need to tell me what's your problem. How can all of us find solution? Don't just wait on the counselor to find solution for you. Don't just wait. You have to move. You have to be active and responsible. The third commitment and the third promise I would do, the councillors, they give themselves raise as a $10,000 for a whole year. That's not acceptable for me, because I can see the frustration of the people who is making a choice between medicine or rent, food or transportation or car insurance. So my commitment is this $10,000 for every year, 4 terms, 4 years, $40,000. I'm willing to give it back to the ward. You tell me on that meeting what you need it for. Seniors.
Thank you so much,
Senior
Mr.
program.
Kassab. That's your time.
Programs. We will do it together.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Rutherford, your closing remarks, please.
Thank you. Over the course of the first term, I feel like I've consistently shown up as a listener, a learner, and a leader who acts not out of political ambition, but out of a genuine care for community responsibility. The things which set me apart the most is my experience, both coming into this role and what I've learned in the last 4 years of listening while navigating some of the most challenging moments: pandemic recovery, record inflation, record population growth, tariff threats, and more. But even though many are going to tell you narratives about how everything in the city is broken, I don't see a broken city. I see a city of hope. I see a city where things are turning around. And when I chose whether I was going to run again in this election, it's because I know there's more work to do, but now I know what needs to be done. I'm immensely grateful for every conversation, every connection that I've had while I've served this diverse and passionate ward. I have been effective. I have been principled. I have been caring, accessible, and responsive. I have made mistakes, and I have learned from them. I am ready to take this experience into another 4 years and get results together. My platform is built for the ward, by the ward, and covers themes that span the diversity of this ward. and I know are achievable in the next term, focused on affordability, quality services, and ensuring that we love where we live. I'd be honored to earn your support to keep building on this work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. Mr. Watson, whenever you're ready for your closing remarks.
Okay, I'd like to say that Edmonton has all the makings of a great city. It has beauty, it has culture, it has an identity, okay? Now I want you to think about the most important thing to you in the coming 4 to 8 years. It could be, I want to reduce taxes or mitigate them at least. I want bike lanes, I don't. I want affordable rec center access, okay? Think about that, and I'm going to talk about myself for a minute. I am an economist, I'm a planner, I'm a business owner, I'm an insider, okay? I think these are valuable things when you look at how to improve or to shift direction in a city. Now, we have, and this is reality, this isn't me just making this up, we have the highest debt, tax, commercial vacancy in our history. We have the worst relationships we've ever had with our provincial government and ourselves, people swearing on council. We destroyed our regional partnership with the collapse of the organization. We have an entire population of Saskatoon at our doors, which is taking our business, because there is a differential in that. We need to build relationships. EPS, I'm sure if you just Googled it, you'd see the challenges around that. We need to look at relationships and fixing it and making Edmonton an economic hub. We have communities suing. We have restrictive covenants across the city on their properties because they're not being heard. Planning 101 is to listen to community, and I'm concerned about that. So I want you to think about the most important thing I told you to think about. And I look at my family and I look at the future, and I'm worried that we won't get it in this trajectory, okay? And maybe those things don't matter that much to you, what I've just said. Maybe they do. But I'm not tied to special interest. I'm not tied to a party line or a third-party advertiser behind the scenes. I'm just Jesse running in the ward, and I have nothing to lose. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Watson. And now, Mrs. Brady, if you'll close up the closing remarks, we'd deeply appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I'm going to start with a little introduction again of myself, following what you introduced me as. So I spent 10 years in the world of public policy and development. I looked at public policy on paper and policy in practice, and the disconnect between the two. And what I've seen in Edmonton is a clear example of the disconnect between policy and what's happening at the ground. As I was about to jet set to a new job overseas, I met and fell in love with an Athlone Calder boy. It was a classic case of, across the train tracks, and that was my real introduction to Northwest Edmonton. I was a Southside girl prior. So what I've seen, in my 6 years in Northwest Edmonton is that our ward has some of the lowest levels of investment out of any ward in the city. You see growth, Southwest Edmonton, West Edmonton. So one of the reasons that I'm running is to bring that attention back to our side of the ward. We're taxpayers. There's no reason why we should kind of be on that forgotten side. We've been on the back burner for too long. And I think that one of the things that I've heard seen and heard at the doors is the lack of engagement. I think many residents are tired of being told. They're tired of being consulted after the fact, and I would love to see that change. Throughout this campaign, I think one of my strong suits has been community engagement. Some candidates can sit behind computers and dictate and lecture. My approach has always been to actually sit and be involved. I may not know every single city bylaw inside out, but I can tell you that I've been there, I'm listening, and that's probably the favorite part of being in this campaign is engaging with the actual people. So should I be successful? I'm looking forward to bringing those voices up because I do not know everything, and that is the reason that we have a ward. There's a reason why there's a councillor there, and it's to make those decisions based on the needs and the voices of the residents as opposed to being told what to do. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. That actually concludes all of the questions that we have for our candidates. I want to thank each of the candidates for your time, your enthusiasm, your candor with answering these questions thoroughly and under such pressure. We really appreciate it. We also want to thank all of the volunteers for making this important engagement possible. Thank you very much to them. We invite you to stay a little while if you'd like to mingle and talk about some of the important things that you've heard and share with each other what you've agreed upon. And also just to let you know that we will have probably till about 9:15, and then we hope that you have enjoyed your evening and that you'll have a safe way home. Thank you kindly. Hi, hi.